Hello, everyone. I'm Ruth Darlene, founder and executive director of Women of Silicon Valley, WomenSV. It's a nonprofit that focuses on women who are involved with a powerful, sophisticated abuser. He may be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, CEO, religious leader, therapist by day, and reveal a very different dark side to you behind closed doors. So, what do you do when you are involved with someone like this? You're married to them or in an intimate relationship with them, and you share a child with them. How do you talk to your child about a father who does not act like a father? And sometimes women will say to me, well, he treats me terribly, but he's such a good dad to the kids. And I have to argue back and say, I cannot believe, I don't believe that's true, because my heartfelt belief is that you cannot be a good father if you're not also a good husband, a good partner. Because what you're doing is you are teaching a child how a man treats a woman, how a husband treats a wife, how a father treats a mother. And to grow up thinking that disparaging your wife, criticizing her, controlling her, isolating her, tearing her down is the way that men treat women. That's not the way to raise a child. So I think it's important to look at the quality of parenting as reflected in the quality of his interaction with his partner. So if this describes you, if you're in a relationship with a man who has treated you badly, he has therefore treated the children badly by being a terrible role model for how they should treat a woman. And when going through the court process, when filing for divorce, or if he's filed for divorce against you, how do you have a conversation with your child about dad's parenting and dad's style of interacting with the child and talking about you and treating you? How do you do that in a way that isn't going to come back to haunt you? When you go through the court process, in the papers themselves, it says something to the effect of one parent should not speak in a disparaging fashion towards or about the other parent. And what many women take that to mean is, I better not say anything about dad because he's done so many horrible things, and if I talk about them, then I'm going to get into trouble. And that can happen. There are women that have lost custody of their children after talking about the truth of what dad has done to them. So this is not meant as legal advice in any way, any of what I'm about to share with you. If there's a way of having this kind of conversation with your child before entering the court process, so much the better. But how to do it in a way that is going to sort of navigate the Scylla and Charybdis, the two scary rocks of wanting to share the truth with your child on the one hand and not wanting to incur the wrath of the court on the other. Though doesn't it seem like you can say the most horrible things about you and get away with it? Because it does seem that women have a much harder time proving their innocence and avoiding horrible negative consequences when they're going through the divorce process. So let's start easy by talking about outside the view of the court. How can you have this kind of conversation with a child? And it could start something like, when dad does these nice things for you, when he buys you a treat or takes you on a vacation or gets you a toy or a puppy, isn't that great? But when dad says mean things, when he says cruel things, when he calls you names or when he calls me names, that's not okay. And that's not how we should treat one another. I am not with your father anymore because I came to a point where I felt that was not a way that a man should treat a woman. And I didn't feel safe continuing in that relationship. And I realize now that I want to be treated better and I deserve to be treated better by a partner. So I had to leave for that reason. But I want to make clear to you that I will always be your mother. I'm not his wife anymore, but I will always be your mother. I want to talk to you about how to treat women, how to treat your mother, how to treat your sister if you have one, how to treat the women in your life, because how you treat me is going to model how you treat other females in your life, and I'd like that to be the best kind of relationship we could possibly have, so you can go on to have healthy relationships with the young women in your life. So think about how you would like to be treated. And then think about how you can treat others in just that way, with kindness, with respect. If you have a disagreement, to talk about it, to share your feelings, but to do it in a way that's full of respect. At this point, sometimes children will say, because sometimes they can be black and white thinkers, well, like, are you saying dad's a bad guy? Like if dad's a bad guy and maybe you're a good guy, well, if I'm 50% dad's DNA and 50% your mom's DNA, does that mean I'm 50% bad guy? And that's where I like to offer a different point of view and say, what if you are 1/3 dad's DNA, 1/3 mom's DNA, and then 1/3 what you choose to make of it? Because ultimately, you have your own destiny in your hands. You are going to come to a crossroads in your life, probably 11, 12, 13, around that time period, and you're going to say, what road am I going to go down? You can learn from some of the nice things that dad does and does for you and says to you. You can learn from the things that you enjoy and value in your mom. And then you can learn from other role models in your life. Other adults will come into your life, your teachers, your coaches. And then as you move into school, professors. And as you go to work, your colleagues and your supervisors. There's going to be plenty of role models, adult male role models to learn from. And then you get to choose. That final third, that is you, is what you're going to learn from dad, from mom, and everybody else that you come across in your life. Because you have your destiny in your hands. Do you know that abuse is a learned behavior? You can come to that crossroads and decide, I felt powerless when I was a little kid. I don't ever want to feel that way again, so I'm going to have power over other people so I don't feel that way ever again in my life. If you come to that crossroads and make that decision, you're in danger of ending up abusing other women in your life or other friends and colleagues. It's really important to dig deep within yourself and think, when dad said these mean things to me, that hurt me. And I felt ashamed sometimes of the things he said to me. I don't ever want to make somebody else feel that way because I know how much it hurt me. So you can learn from negative example. And maybe at some point in my interactions with you, maybe I've said things that have hurt your feelings, and I'm so sorry if I've ever done that. I want you to tell me. But I want us both to be working on self-reflection. So we look within and say, when people treat me like that, that hurts. I don't want to ever cause somebody else that pain. So I'm going to learn from negative example. It hurt me. I don't want to pass that hot potato on to somebody else. I want to learn from it and treat other people so much better than I felt I was treated. You can learn from negative example. Abuse is a learned behavior, but so is love. So is love. And I hope in this home with me, I have no control over what happens in dad's house. It's like two different countries. You know, have you ever been to, oh my gosh, countries where people stand like 2 inches away from each other, or everybody walks down the street, men or women holding hands, and it's perfectly accepted. Have you ever gone to a country where you eat with your fingers? There's different cultures in different countries. And let's think of dad's house as a different country with a different culture. And when you go over to visit your dad, you can put on that other hat and say, okay, here's how life is at dad's house. And then when you come over to mom's house, you can put on that other hat and realize you're coming to a different country with a different culture. And this is where mom's rules rule the day. This is where we do our homework in a timely fashion. We do our homework before we watch TV or go out and play. We go to bed at a decent hour. We don't have chocolate for breakfast. There's certain guidelines and certain structure. This is what happens at mom's house. And when you're 18, you get to go and make up your own rules. But until then, If things happen and there need to be consequences, that's what's going to happen at mom's house. But always know, whenever there's a consequence, I'm going to give it to you with love. So if you say mean things to me, if you disrespect me, you're going to have to go to your room and lose your privileges for a little while. We'll talk about how long. But that's what life is all about. When you don't behave well, they put you in a timeout. It's called jail if you do things that are bad enough. So there's cause and effect, behavior that has consequences. And at Dad's, it may be a free-for-all, but it's not that way here. Back to, who are you going to be? Who are you going to learn from? Can you learn from everybody? But the joy is you get to have your final decision about who you are, what you are, who you become. That's the power that you have. You can learn to love as you want to be loved. So let's pull out of that conversation with children and just be thinking for a moment what it's like to have these two opposite sets of values, and to think about how powerful it is over at Dad's house with that manipulative power to get inside a child's brain. It's like, I often talk about getting involved with a covert abuser. It's like getting sucked into a cult, becoming a prisoner of war, and being possessed by a demon. And you think about how powerful they are, how charismatic and charming they are in the beginning. With your fully formed adult brain, how long did it take you to start to realize what kind of person you were with? Was he a doctor, lawyer, engineer, CEO? Did he drive a nice car? Was he educated, sophisticated, charming, funny? Did he say and do all the right things? Did he have all the trappings of success? And how long did it take you to recognize what was underneath all that? You saw the tip of the iceberg. Judges, attorneys, police, most people out in the world see the tip of his iceberg. It's you that sees the whole thing. So let's have some kind of compassion for the court, for judges, as they struggle to recognize what took you so long to open your eyes to. If we haven't been taught to recognize this personality type, how can we blame ourselves or anybody else for not seeing it? If you don't know what to look for, you're not going to see it. That's us with our fully formed brains. Now, what about taking a little child whose brain is still forming, putty in the hands of a manipulative, cunning, calculating, covert abuser who takes delight in sowing these seeds of dissent, confusion, alienation in the mind of a child to eventually take that child away from you? That's the goal. They want to go after the things that mean the most to you, like your children. And if not take them away from you literally, then symbolically, by undermining your relationship with them. That's what you're up against. And that's why it's so important. Self-care is so important. So many of our ladies, they forget what self-care even means. It's been so long since they've thought of anything to do with themselves, because their partner is taking up every aspect of their being 24/7. They're thinking about what to do to respond to that latest assault, how to protect their child from this latest assault. So what time is left for you? Super important for there to be time left for you, because it's time to take off your hat as a devoted wife who is trying to keep the peace and reach some kind of peaceful settlement for the sake of the children. That's your heart, but let's think about what his perspective is. If he fits the typical profile, he's about winner take all, taking revenge on you. His idea of a fair settlement will be for him to take everything and for you to have nothing. He's going to look at all the things that mean the most to you and do his best to take them all away from you, including your ability to earn an income, your profession, your reputation, your sanity, your health, your money, your home, your children. One way or another, he's going to work to take those all away from you. That's what you're up against. So I would invite you to take off that hat, the Sunday go to meeting hat, as the wife going through this process of sort of grief and ending a relationship that you hoped would last forever. Take time to mourn the loss of that. I'm not saying not to do that. It's important to acknowledge the loss, the death of a dream, the dream of a partner that you hoped would be with you till the end of time. That dream is gone now because now your eyes are open and you see that you married Dr. Jekyll and woke up to Mr. Hyde. So taking off the wife hat, maybe now it's time to replace it with the woman warrior helmet, getting ready for war. Time to gird your loins, gather your allies, think strategically, not from the heart anymore, but from the head. What's he planning? Can you start thinking, playing the chess game? Because that's that's what he's doing. Do you play chess? Well, you are. You are playing chess, whether you think you are or not. You're up against a cunning, calculating strategist. The art of war, they're very skilled in that. So if you can start thinking, what is he planning? Why is he planting these seeds? What's it going to add up to? And if you can anticipate some of his moves based on his past behavior, then hopefully it'll help protect you. So with children, if you can get them into therapy before you begin the court process with a trauma-informed therapist, that can help protect your child going forward. If anything happens over at dad's house, the court is much more likely to listen to a therapist, a third party, than to you, unfortunately. And if you make allegations of sexual abuse or domestic violence, and if he's alleging parental alienation, the statistics show that you are unfortunately more likely to end up losing custody of your child. So you need to have an attorney that is a skilled litigator and able to argue on your behalf and help the court understand that there's evidence, there's truth, there's a pattern to his egregious behavior. With Family Code 6320, now in California, coercive control is now grounds for a restraining order. And just as a man can be coercively controlling towards a woman, he can also be coercively controlling towards a child. And that's not to say that women can't be controlling as well when it comes to children. Wherever you have a power imbalance, you have the potential to abuse that power. And who's more powerless coming into the world than a baby, than a young child? They're completely dependent on their parents for survival. And how intoxicating that is to somebody that thrives on power and sucking power from other people. That's the problem with being involved with an energy vampire, a financial vampire, spiritual vampire, is they see life and relationships as a zero-sum game. They have to take from you in order to have what they need. In a parenting relationship, the trajectory is supposed to be for the parent to gradually give up power to the child. In that power relationship where there's an imbalance of power, where mom and dad make all the rules, as the child grows older, the child is supposed to gain that privilege and that responsibility of making decisions. Oh, what camp do I want to go to? What classes do I want to take in high school? What college do I want to end up going to? What career do I want to pursue? That's the child's trajectory. Mom and dad releasing power over the child so the child can take that power and take it within themselves, become empowered to live their own life and choose their own destiny. But do you see how impossible that is for an abuser to have that kind of relationship with a child? Because what is abuse? It's what is coercive control? Another form of abuse of power in order to control another person. It's all about power and control. He's got to be in control, in power, always. He always has to be right. He will never give in. Even when he's wrong, he's got to be right. So when you have to be right, when you have to be on top, when you push other people down so that you can feel higher, how do you raise a child under those circumstances? That's why with custody orders, with any decision when you share legal custody and with an abuser, every little thing will become a bone of contention, something to argue over or litigate. If it's the choice of doctor, a choice of pediatrician or camp or what school to go to, everything becomes a battleground because they have to win and they want to subjugate not just you, but the child to their will. So, knowing that's what you're up against, somebody that is unwilling to give up power so their child can become empowered, now that task moves to you to take up the gauntlet to help your child recognize that you are the model now for what healthy love looks like, for what empowerment looks like, for release, for surrender, but also what being human looks like. There will be times that you'll lose your temper. There'll be times when you'll be sad. There'll be times when you'll be angry at your child, and that's all okay. As long as eventually you're able to recognize when you've made mistakes, ask for forgiveness, and show by your behavior that you are willing and wanting to do better and be better. So you're demonstrating to your child that ability to do self-reflection, to feel empathy for the pain that you've caused by saying or doing something that hurts somebody else's feelings. So you're showing empathy and self-reflection and remorse by apologizing. All the qualities that the covert abuser does not demonstrate, does not have. Covert abuser does not practice self-reflection, empathy, remorse. And then how about honesty? They lie all the time. They'll tell you that it's midnight and snowing. Well, maybe it is at your place, but if it's midday and 90 degrees, they can make you believe anything. There was a little boy that fell down and bloodied his knee, and he was crying and just was howling with pain and watching the blood gush out of his knee. Mom put the bandage on, and the blood was leaking through. And Dad came up and said, "Oh, what are you doing crying like that, you little sissy? And there's nothing wrong with you that you should be howling like that," and shaming the child. And then he said, "There's nothing there. There's nothing to see there. There's no blood. What are you talking about?" And Mom said she literally saw the blood evaporate before her very eyes, disappear before her very eyes. That was the extent to which she had succumbed to the power of his gaslighting. That's the effect it can have on your brain. It impacts the way you see the world. See, it's no longer seeing reality. It's his version of reality that can get inside your head as a grown woman. So what happens to a child? And that's when denial can start happening. Pushing down self-reflection. Okay, I'm not that hurt. It's not bleeding. I shouldn't cry. And shouldn't. And then all these feelings get swept under the carpet and below the surface. And that's how abusers can be created, by pushing down self-reflection, remorse, and empathy. So we want to keep those qualities alive in a child, but that means also that child's going to feel pain sometimes, thinking about, I got my feelings hurt, I got my heart broken. But we can't ever really fully feel joy if we haven't ever really fully felt heartache. We see the world through contrasts. Otherwise, we go through the world like this, dead inside. And that's often what a covert abuser does through life. He's dead inside. So we want to be able to feel the pain and to be comforted by a safe parent, and then feel free to explore what happiness looks like by contrast. Every now and again, you'll see that your child may lose their temper with you and may say things that are unkind to you. It is important to give them consequences, but you also know that you are the safe parent, and he's or she is able to be who they fully are with you because you're safe. You are the role model for what safe looks like, what healthy love looks like, and healthy love is messy. They can't be messy at Dad's house. They can't show their true feelings. They can't be who they truly are. They have to be who he wants them to be. That's the difference between an abuser and somebody who's normal. A normal person, a normal mother, a normal parent will let you be who you are. And with this give and take, and it's going to be what's right for you, what's best for you, my child. But with an abuser, it's not what's best for you, my child. It's what's best for me. the abusive parent. It's making him look good, what's convenient for him, what he wants. Viewing women and children as possessions and objects and resources to be used and sometimes used up. So put on your warrior helmet, recognize who you're up against, and then take some time as a mother and an ex-wife of somebody that has fled the war-torn country that was your home. But now that you are creating your own sanctuary for yourself and your children, now it's time to be thinking about yourself without ever feeling selfish, but know that to be a good mom, you want to start by being good to yourself and cradling and nurturing and protecting your own inner child. And what does that mean to you? Because maybe your inner child has been hurt. That vulnerable little part of you has been betrayed. So how do you bring that part of you back to trust life again? One other reason why it's important to look after yourself is you are actually role modeling for your children how to look after themselves. So by taking time to, I don't know, color your hair or buy a new dress or just have some alone time where you can read, you're showing your children that you matter. And that can be reflected for them so that they start to learn ways to look after themselves. And there's lots of ways of looking after yourself that you can share with your children too. Things like tapping. If you look up emotional freedom techniques, there's different places that you can tap to help release serotonin. You can teach them breathing techniques, like taking a deep breath in and then breathing out through your mouth like you're breathing out through a straw. You can teach your kids that too. There's yoga for kids now. There's trauma-informed yoga. There's ways of helping them feel more comfortable in their body. Because what does trauma do? It takes you out of your body. It has a dissociative kind of effect on the mind. And kids can sometimes end up getting diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. And maybe it is because their brain just works differently. But maybe it's because they're thinking about all the stuff that's going on at home. What happens to you when you're traumatized by a scary parent is at home is you feel like there's no way out. You are trapped as a child. Like children are the ultimate political prisoners, aren't they? Like who's there to rescue them? And if a dad is raging and the child is trapped in their bedroom and he's come in and there's no escape, sometimes the only way to leave is in your mind. And that's why so many kids end up getting addicted to video games, is it's a way to feel power and to escape from their scary home life into a world where they're taking their power back, even if it's a fantasy world. Are there ways that you can teach your children to deal with stress so that they can take a beat before flinging their laptop across the room or punching a wall or punching you? Can they start to learn to self-regulate? They're not going to learn that from dad. Sometimes I say about covert abusers, imagine a 4-year-old trapped in the body of a 200-pound man. But when a 4-year-old has a temper tantrum, toys get broken. But when a covert abuser with the temperament of a small angry child has a temper tantrum, that's when people can get broken. So what your children may be learning from dad is anything but self-regulation. So it's another skill for you to teach them. Are they taking classes in empathy, remorse, compassion, self-reflection, developing a moral compass? All these things, if you're not getting them at home, and if one of your powerful role models is demonstrating the opposite, then where are they going to learn this? So kids often gravitate towards whoever they perceive to have the more power in the relationship, and usually that's dad if he's a coercive, controlling, covert abuser. It's a question of survival, and they may not feel it's safe to demonstrate their affection for you, even knowing that dad will disapprove. Some of my ladies, they've been told by their children, dad says, I can't hug you anymore. That's for sissies. how cruel that is. But what's dad's motive? He wants to isolate mom from child, to sow seeds of dissent and division between them, the better to control each one. So if you're still living with your partner, it's an uphill battle trying to teach your child these skills when they're learning the opposite from their dad. My heart goes out to you. But with these stolen moments, if you can sort of quietly hug your child and start to teach your child what empathy looks like. There's books on, one is called Empathy is My Superpower. There's the big life journal for kids that we've talked about before. There's one for smaller children and then one for adolescents. These are key moments of development in a child's life, and they're getting such a horrible role model in the form of their father. It's a big burden to put on you, but it's also an honor and an opportunity for you to teach them the skills that they should have gotten from dad, and qualities like empathy, compassion, remorse, self-reflection, honesty, integrity, developing a moral compass. There are books you can talk to your child about. There's fairy tales where you can also talk about these two faces that people and creatures have in the fairy tale realm, right? The wolf in sheep's clothing, Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel with the cottage with the witch outside. Come on in, little girls, little Hansel and Gretel. I've got cookies inside, also an oven, but and Snow White. I mean, just as an example of how mothers or stepmothers or adult women can also be guilty of coercive control and have that dark side. But in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, we have these the kindly old lady with the apple. So here, these stories, Hansel and Gretel and Snow White and the Little Red Riding Hood. Boy, what wisdom there is in fairy tales, where we see what appears on the surface and then what lies underneath. So it's never too early to start talking to children about these characters that can have one face in public, the tip of the iceberg, and then over time you see what's underneath. Self-regulation skills, if we can teach them how to be different from what they're learning from their dad, they can learn to be who they appear in public behind closed doors as well. That, just like you, Mom, that what you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. That's the gift that you can give your children, teaching them to be authentic, to be who they truly are with everyone who they invite into their inner circle. But and then to help teach them self-regulation skills so they can take a beat before responding, before punching little Billy or little Sally. They can breathe, they can reflect, they can write in their journal, they can take up running or a sport to work off that extra energy. They can talk to a friend, they can talk to you, they can draw, they can work it out some other way. There are other ways of dealing with stress. They don't always have to say the mean word or do the mean thing. They can take a moment and reflect. And that's the gift that you as a mother can give your children. First, start with your self-care and building up your emotional reserves, because God knows they're going to be drawn on through the court process and through your child that will test your nerves, and through interactions, those forced interactions you may still have to have with your ex. So building up your own inner reserves. Be like Rocky, putting that raw egg in the milkshake and jumping up and down the stairs and punching that cow carcass just to go the distance. You want to take care of yourself. Build your inner reserves up. Take good care of yourself so that you can be there for your children and teach them what self-care looks like, what boundaries look like. That's another video that we'll talk about, a topic that we'll go into later. But what does self-care look like for you? Teach it to your children. And self-regulation, so that they can learn, they can do something different from dad. They don't have to punch. They don't have to say the mean word. They can learn kindness. If they've experienced cruelty and they know how it hurt them, they can learn from you what kindness is. So what would you like to do today? Could you go to the beach? Could you buy yourself something frivolous on Amazon? Could you just even make yourself a little cup of Blue Lotus tea? What would make your heart sing? What would make you feel feminine again? What would make you feel loved again? So we start with the love, with treating ourselves with love and kindness and tenderness, all those things we should have received from our ex-partner and didn't. And then thinking about all those things for us. And then as we fill up our cup, then it can overflow. And then we share that love and tenderness with our child, while still holding them accountable and showing them that there is consequences at mom's house for their behavior. And then step by step, you walk that road together. So I hope that helps. I hope you can have some important conversations with your children so they can come to that crossroads and decide, do I want to become like Dad? Do I want to get involved with someone like Dad? Or do I want to go my own way and treat others with much more kindness and tenderness and equality than I received from my father? So we want to shine a light on what the truth is here. You can be a father and also an abuser. And to say better a flawed father than no father at all, I'm saying that's true if a father is capable of empathy and remorse and self-reflection and honesty and moral compass. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a dad that trips a 2-year-old because he's sick of the child crying. What do you do with that? So what you want to do is look at the qualities that that your ex has or doesn't have, and then protect yourself from them. So you start to model for your children what adults can behave like, who they can be in a world where there's plenty of wolves in sheep's clothing. If abuse is a learned behavior, so is love, and that's you, Mom. You want to help them recognize the good, tender qualities that you want them to develop, and you're the perfect role model for that. Because of you, they have every chance in the world of turning out okay. And even if you're estranged from them for a little while, there's always that chance that they'll come back to you, as long as you are letting them know that you continue to be that safe parent full of unconditional love, and you're here whenever they're ready to come back to you. So they get to choose. They get to choose who they're going to be when they grow up. But to say that better a flawed father than no father at all, if they don't have empathy or remorse, it's like saying better a leg with gangrene than no leg at all. I know it hurts and it's horrible to have to cut off a limb, but if it's poisonous and toxic, what is the risk? Infecting the entire system. So I think first we judge people on the basis of their character, and second on the basis of their relationship by blood. So please take good care of yourself first, and then everybody else who deserves it. If you like what you heard, please click subscribe and stay tuned for our next videos. You can check back with on my earlier videos on masking Dr. Jekyll and how the covert abuser attacks and how to defend yourself. And we'll keep talking and shining a light on what covert abuse looks like in middle to upper income areas when you're dealing with somebody that has one face in public and another very different one behind closed doors. But now your eyes are open. And when your eyes are open, it just helps you take your power back. So please take good care of yourself, and we'll talk again soon.